You are listening to Revealing Real Estate Podcast, where we dive into getting over your fear of taking risk in real estate and making money while you sleep. I'm Nico Pedizano, your host and real estate guru with over 20 years of experience. It's time to get real. Welcome back to the show, Revealing Real Estate. Today we got a special guest, a gentleman named Paul Miceli. He's the CEO and co-founder of Vanguard Realty. Paul's been licensed right now, I believe. Hey, Paul, welcome to the show, first and foremost.
Thanks, Nick.
You've been licensed in 20 years now?
Yeah, just about, actually 20 right on the nose.
Yeah, so for those that don't know, Paul, when I started out and I got my real estate license, Paul was the first brokerage that I actually joined. At the time, it was called Premium One Realty. Man, he taught me a lot of stuff that I needed to know within the business and taught me a lot about the hustle part of it, for sure. So Paul, I just want to kind of dive into a little bit about yourself. I know that you weren't prior to 20 years before you joined real estate. What were you doing?
I was in the heavy equipment business. So we used to do the heavy equipment rentals, sales. That was like a family business that my parents owned.
Yeah.
And they owned it for 20 years or so. And then they actually sold that company to an American public company, and then I got into real estate shortly after that.
And what made you want to get into real estate?
I loved sales. I always liked sales. I loved the sales aspect of it, and I thought that I had some friends that were doing very well in that sector of business, and I thought, you know what, why not? Give it a try. And there was a young guy still. I just had gotten married, and I thought, you know what, why not? Give it a shot, and I did.
So things have changed. 20 years in business, things have changed quite a bit.
Absolutely.
Right. What are you finding is the biggest obstacle for you now within the industry?
There was one time I thought that the biggest obstacle currently is definitely interest rates. It's I think that things have really changed in the fact that the cost of borrowing money is significantly higher, which now is affecting our markets, right? I think that's the biggest thing that we have to overcome. I think it's something that we need to deal with. I think prices will probably adjust a little bit, and then I think we'll get right back on track to where we were, say 3 or 4 years ago.
No, and I kind of feel the same way regarding the market. We are in a big shift. I think we're going to go back to what it was back in the day. I don't know if you remember when I first started with you. People don't realize, the amount of, and you've seen my growth and you've seen the level of growth that I've grown to.
It was a grind.
Hey, you remember those cold calling days that you used to walk into the office and you see me with the yellow pages on?
I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was you know what? I think we need to get back to those.
And I think that's where the market's going to get back to for young, inspiring real estate agents that are listening, man. You're going to get into a market where expiries are going to be very important if you can start building a market.
You know what? If I could give young brokers any type of advice, we're not building spaceships here, right? So the hard workers, they're definitely going to make. Those are the guys that are going to make the deals. So the guys that get up and the girls that get up and they make the phone calls and they cold call and they work it. Those are the guys that are going to do well. It's never a surprise, Nick. You can see probably with your own brokerage. There's always the same names always kind of float to the top at the end of every month, right?
Yes.
I see that within our brokerage.
And
of course, it's always the guys that are the people that are working hard seem to get the results, right?
Yeah.
So
it's all about feeding that hamster, right? And if you're doing the right things every day, I always tell people all the time, 80% of this business is showing up. Right. So if you show up and you put in the time, the business will pay you back, 3 times what you've put into it.
Absolutely.
And you need to put in the time, right? And you came in from that business, right? Because I looked at you and I inspired, when I used to watch you within your office, because I was very assertive, very young within my career. And I would look at, okay, what's a guy like Paul doing who was always a top producer, and you always made a lot of deals, right? And I was looking up to you on that sector, and I'm like, man, this guy just doesn't stop getting off the phone. One thing I noticed about you is that you were just grinding the phone back in the day.
The other business I was in was very similar. So we were calling contractors in that business, right?
Right.
So it was the same thing. We were on the phones. You had to call. You had to keep getting in front of guys. You had to keep going in that business. It was job sites and that kind of thing. But it's nothing changed. It was the same formula, just a different mix of people.
Right. Yeah. And are you finding that, are things still kind of within your business? Like, what's a day like with Paul Miceli? Yeah, I just want to kind of dive in deep.
Well,
what really drives your business today?
I think you're in the same position kind of, I think, as me. When you get a little older, and how I explain it to a lot of people is it's like a doctor building a practice.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I can see that.
So as you get more years under your belt, like if you look back, I always do this. I look back at my day timer and I see guys that I dealt with 20 years ago that come up. And I'm still dealing with those same institutions or companies or people today. So I don't cold call as much as I used to because I have a book of business now.
Right.
But,
yeah,
it took a career of 20 years to get there.
Right. It's almost similar to the insurance side of things. You're building a book of business. People don't realize that real estate could become residual, and that it is residual, right?
For commercial, I don't. I think the res side is a little different because I've done some res in my history, right?
Of course,
but
yes.
the definitely the commercial side, it's more institutional. It's repeat business. It's the same guys. You're selling them a property and then you're leasing that property a lot of times, right?
Right.
So the commercial is definitely a residual business for sure.
Listen, I think the concept, whatever sector you specialize within the business, whether you specialize in residential, you specialize in commercial, I think the systems involved within the business itself are very similar, right? And it's about making sure that you tap into your center of influence, right? Your COI, the people that you currently know, isn't really a crucial, important point of what really drives the forefront of my business, and I'm sure the same thing with your business, right?
Years ago, I never thought that when guys, I think me and you had these conversations many, many years ago about specializing in different sectors of real estate.
Yes, and I want to tap into that, right? Because
I would
it's
say
important, right?
Years ago, if you would ask me that question, I would say, well, it's not important. However, as I gained more experience under my belt and I met more people along the way and I dealt with different types of institutions, companies, and regular people,
right?
I definitely am going to change my view on that. I actually do think real estate is a specialized business. To give your client the absolute, 100% care that they need, you need to understand your markets and you need to understand what your market is doing and how you're going to be able to help that person or that institution or that company get the most out of what they can do with their product.
Exactly.
So yes. I am a big believer that you do need to specialize now.
Yeah, and I'm on the same way, right? I was in the sector too as well. Somebody says to me, "Hey Nick, I got a commercial unit that I wanted to lease. Are you going to do it?" Yeah, of course I'll do it, right? Hey Nick, I'm looking for a building. Are you going to do it? Of course I'll take you on, right? I'm going to do it, right? Hey, Nick, you want to sell my house? Of course I'm going to sell your house. Right. But now it's to the point, it's like, I don't think I'm going to be the right suitable fit for, like I had a client of mine that I do all their family business, all their residential stuff, right? But they also dabble in commercial. And one of the son is now, as we got the kids got older, the daughter wants to look for a commercial unit because she wants to start a food business. I think, like one of those revitalized type of places, right?
With, like a juice bar.
Like a juice bar. Like a juice bar. And he's calling me up. He's like, "Hey, can you find me something?" As soon as he called me up, I'm like, "Hey, listen, I don't think I'm the right guy for you to help you out in that sector on it, right? Because you need to find somebody who's going to specialize within that field, because regarding the zoning requirements, making sure that it's the right fit, what locations are working." There's a lot of times that you get these commercial buildings that developers just, announce.
And the other thing is just like, in your sector, our sector is the same. A lot of times, very hot properties, we don't put them on the market. They're what we call pocket listings.
I find that a lot in your sector, for sure.
In our industry, it's, just because what we're having at the present time, although the market is in transition in the terms of rates and pricing.
And cap rates, yeah.
We still have a shortage of industrial, commercial, retail properties. We still have a shortage of these things. So if we have a very hot property, most of the times we try to move it within our community. Yeah. Our community of other brokers. Yeah. Could be another brokerage, but we're not quick to throw it on MLS.
Well, because most of the time you're probably going to have a tenant or a buyer for that specific building within your certain network,
within our
your
community, for sure.
Yeah, which goes back to the question I wanted to ask you. How many agents you have now working for you?
So we're just under, I believe, don't quote me, Marcello, our broker of record, would probably be the right guy.
Yeah.
But I think we're around.
He's the numbers guy.
Yeah, he's the numbers guy. I think we're around close to 70 agents.
70 agents.
With
that's awesome.
4 offices, right?
Yeah.
So, and like those numbers change all the time.
Of course. That's part of the business.
We have a really good crew of guys, our key guys. And great, we have what I call specialty guys in certain fields. We have
got your land guys that just specialize in land, right? I remember at one point I even tried to get into the land sector of things.
It's difficult.
It's tough.
It is because
dealing with farmers all the time is a big obstacle.
You got to keep those. It's not like you knock on one door and the guy's eager to help you and give you a listing or work with you. It's sometimes we actually a colleague of mine that I do a lot of farms with. We worked on one for about 3 years, and we just sold it this past year. But we called on this guy for 3 or 4 years.
But when you hit, you hit.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you hit on those, you hit.
But they're long-term investments, right?
Of course. Yeah. Yeah.
And you have to invest a lot of time, and you have to know your knowledge of what the market is doing. And we found, even the actual sellers now, they're much more in tune to what the market is doing. Yeah. They understand, there's so much technology out there today. They know what people have sold for.
They got their information right at the tips of their fingers, right through these apps. How Sigma is one.
Which I'm happy about, because it's taking, a more qualified agents are doing better in our business now.
Yeah, because people are not going to call you, because it takes up some time. People are calling you all the time. Hey, what did this house sell for? What did this house sell for? Nowadays, you're not getting those type of calls where you have to.
They know.
They know already, which is good, because, you don't want to be managing those type of calls all day. You want to be doing more productive calls.
And it's making our business more professional, right? Like the right professionals are going to have that information, and they're going to give that right information to those sellers, right?
Yeah.
They're not, kind of what you call shooting from the hip. They're right on track, giving proper information and proper guidance to their clients.
Well, it's when you're going to a presentation, or I go into a listing presentation for a house, I'm walking inside. These people already know what the value of the house is.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like I'm not explaining what the value is. You Mr. Seller,
you already
service,
know.
I'm explaining my service.
That's
is what
right.
I'm going to do. Why I'm different over my competition.
We're the same on our.
It's the same thing. They already know what they're getting a cost per square foot. They already know what and
it's all out there.
It's all out there, right? Now it's okay.
What's my marketing strategy versus the next guy?
Correct. Right. What are you gonna do different over the competition? Why should I hire you? Right. And that's portraying the value. And I think that's what's really key within our business as top real estate agents. Really putting out and showing value is I think the biggest key component of what we do.
The biggest thing I try to tell, we're always trying to school some new agents that are coming to the business. In one word, availability. Like, it's an easy thing. Make yourself available to your client.
Yeah.
When he needs you.
Yeah. It's true.
Answer the phone.
Yeah.
Like, get on that call. And it could be, this is not a 9-to-5 job. It's a career that you got to make yourself available to your clients. And sometimes your clients are, a lot of, like in our sector, our clients, a lot of them are doing other things during the day. And their commercial real estate portfolio is secondary to their business. So, because they have a regular operating business, right?
Yes.
Which is making them the money to buy commercial real estate.
Correct.
So if they're calling you at 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night, you need to be available at those times, because they may not have that time during their regular business day to call you or talk to you.
No, but that makes total sense too. It's like if I'm dealing with a mortgage specialist, for instance, right? Do I want to deal with somebody from a bank, an institution? They're 9 to 5. They shut down at 5 o'clock. Yeah. Or do I want to deal with a mortgage agent who's going to shop my rate around, go to different banks, try to find me the best rate, and he's going to have to answer my phone at 7, 8 o'clock at night when I'm around working? I'd rather deal with that guy because he's working past 5 o'clock. He's available. Yeah. Right? And it's the same thing within our sector, within our business. I remember one of the deals that I've done when I was really young. It was it was a house in the National States. It was backing onto the golf course. It was an opportunity. I ended up getting this listing. I put it out on the market. And a guy calls me up he was driving in the area, calls me from the sign. He says, hey, I'm looking to come and see this house. He left a message at the office. I get the page. I look on my phone. Hey, this gentleman's calling regarding this property that you have on international states. And I said, oh, okay. Right away, within 5 minutes, I called this guy. And I was at that front door showing him the property within the next 20 minutes. The guy loved it so much. He goes, you don't understand how many real estate agents I actually called, and they didn't return my phone call until hours later. And he goes, you're the guy I want to deal with. He had another property in the national states, bought 5 other properties.
Oh, I remember this guy.
You remember him?
Yeah, I remember this guy. We were working together that time. You just had, I just had moved into commercial, but you were still doing the residential.
I was doing the residential side.
I remember this.
Yeah, and these guys actually set my career and set my path because, for sale signs are really big.
So it's all availability, right?
It's all availability, just being there available at the time instantaneously. Like I tell people all the time, especially within the modern day world with technology, it's even got worse. And this is the difference I found from 20 years ago till today, is that people have zero patience. They want instant information directly to their fingertips. So when somebody's calling in on a lead, if we're not responding within 10 minutes, we've lost that lead to a different site. Right,
absolutely,
and that's just the process on it.
Just because it's easy for them to do that, right?
Yeah, but people have come so accustomed now to getting that information automatically. Right. Like, you remember when we used to have to dial up for internet, and we had to wait, and you had to listen to that dial up. Now today's, if my internet comes in like 10 seconds, it's too slow.
We didn't even text people. Do you remember? We never texted people because you had those phones where you had to go, like all the numbers were.
Oh, me and you came back from the pager era.
Yeah, do you remember?
Well, we used to get paged on the phone, beep, 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 beep.
Actually, information has to move very fast today. If it doesn't, it's the path of least resistance. Yes. The guy is going to go.
He's going to be able to get that information, who responds to him very quickly, and he wants to know now because people are very busy. They don't got the time, and
that's the same in any sector of real estate, folks. Anywhere you go, whether it's residential, commercial, retail, office, any of that stuff, you have to be on it. People want you to get back to them.
Yes,
and the way you get back to them, we know what's different nowadays. I find if a guy calls me, I call him back. If a guy texts me, I text him back. If he emails me, I email him back. If he goes through social media, I respond through social media.
Yes,
because that's the way that they want to talk to you.
Correct. And people, and you're 100% right about that, right? There's a lot of people that don't want to receive a phone call. No. They want to just receive a text.
They don't want to communicate that way.
Exactly.
For whatever reason.
Yeah.
We're old school. We love to sit and talk.
I'm like, I hate the text message because it takes so long. And I got to reply. Now I'm talking into my phone so that it just spits out what I'm saying. So it makes it easier.
It's changed in every sector. I think the younger generation coming up for sure is working that way. I see it. I have kids. I have kids in their 20s, some in their teenagers. They communicate that way. That's how they communicate. So if we're going to continue, that's going to be our business going forward. That's going to be part of it. We need to do it.
Yeah. Right. What I noticed that changes, and you'll recall, is offer presentations. Remember that we used to have agents that used to come to the door and we used to present live?
Who does that anymore?
Who does that no more? Right now, it's all about email. You won't get people to move. Everything's DocuSign or Authentisign.
Yeah, I did a listing presentation. So even listing presentations, the guy I was listing a property a couple of weeks back for an institutional listing.
Yeah,
he wanted me to email him before we even went and did our boardroom meeting with a couple of other guys.
Yeah.
He wanted to see what were we going to be talking about. So I had to email him a package. Then I had to go there in person and then present it. So everything works a little bit.
Think about how prepared that client was, right? And,
they wanted to know what I was going to bring to the table and what I was going to say. And he actually tweaked a couple of things that he didn't agree with, and he wanted to make sure we were all on the same page. Yeah. So it's that's technology, right? It's technology.
Yeah, and I think guys like us who have achieved what we've achieved is our presentations have to be on point, right? And I think that's a really
and you got to change with your business,
and you got to change with your business, right? And you got to evolve.
Well, how many guys that are our age? So I'm turning 50. Nick's about
I'm 47. Yeah,
a couple years younger. Yep. But they, the guys in our era, we see this all the time because me and you've had lunch and talked about it, or played golf and talked about it.
Yeah,
they haven't changed.
Yes.
They've stayed in that same the way they were doing it 20 years ago, and the world's changed.
Yeah.
Right. Another
big performing realtors, right? They were doing it, but they didn't want to change with getting onto social media.
You've seen those names change. Have you not seen those names change?
Yes. You see less and less of their signs and more and more.
And you're going to see less and less.
Yes.
So, there was a point in time in my personal career that I had to make that transition. And it isn't easy. But I said, we're going to make that transition. We're going to do it. We're going to try it. And you know what? It's really worked out for us as a company, me as a broker. It's really, really worked out because we went in the direction of where the world was going, right?
Yeah, and what I see from you, like you drive around, you drive around the areas and quite a bit, even in Toronto, I see a lot of your signs, either for lease or for sale. And I can't tell you how many times it's the same thing within my sector, right? For sale signs or having signs out there.
Signs are still a big part
of it, right? Yes, and that's what I want to get to. So signs are, and having signs out there. Like when I focused my business, it was all making sure that when I prospect, it was always prospecting based on me trying to get a listing. And then when I started building my team, it was more my agents dealing with the buyers to help me through the process because I was just so focused in on making sure that it was a number game. So people, when they see a sign, either it was a sold or for sale, right, they called me. And that was a big component.
Well, you know what I liked about yours, when I saw yours all the time? Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, it's okay.
Uniformity.
Signs
need to have consistency.
Correct. Yes. All marketing has to be consistent, right? My billboard has to match my magazine to my flyer to my sign.
And, and within the residential community, I really see, like, this doesn't happen in our world, but in your world, it definitely happens. There's 18,000 variations of Remax signs. Like, it's bizarre to me because we would never do that. If you notice our signs, whether that name is Paul Miceli or whoever else,
as the agent on there,
the sign does not change. And even like we don't do a lot of it, but we do some resale. You notice I will never let a face go on the sign, or there's a certain bylaw that we have within our community that you can't change, and you can't change the color scheme. You can't change anything. And the commercial,
it's important.
The commercial world really sticks by that. I don't know if you've seen that. And I wanted to touch on this because to me, it's a very important thing. Advertising, a lot of it is subliminal, right? And I think everybody knows that. So when you see the exact same consistency in your colors, in the way that sign is set up, guess what? People remember.
Correct.
If you keep changing it, they won't remember.
They won't. And I see it so many times. It's like, and I come from the Remax brand, right? And I pay all these fees to have the Remax balloon with the Remax colors.
How many use it?
And how many times do I see Remax agents with a black sign? They want to have this. I get, like, listen, if you're going to be on a luxury side of things, maybe you want to have a distinct sign, you could tweak it a bit. But for your average product, your semis, your towns, your detached homes, that sign needs to maintain consistency. But that sign, what my brand on that sign needs to match my billboards, needs to match my magazine.
Consistency. So
and that's what it's about.
The OP team has consistency.
You'll recognize it right away. Once you see it, say, I see them around.
Right. The brand, the logo, it's all consistent.
And that's marketing, right? That's a puzzle.
Yeah. Very important to new agents, I got to tell you, when you're doing your own marketing, and because, real estate is your own business in a sense, right?
It is, yeah.
Guys like me and Nick can give you guidance, but at the end of the day, it's your own business. So you have to, but when you're building a brand or building your own name, I think consistency is very, very important.
Yeah, and I think if you're going to treat it as a business and not a career, you got to make sure that you're going to make that investment to do it and get yourself out there and start. Because Paul, you seen me at the very beginning of the stages. I had no marketing. We were
learning.
I remember you guys gave me a desk and you gave me a computer, and I said, I flipped it. I flipped up. It was my laptop at the time.
Here's the phone book.
I said, Paul, but what am I going to do now? And you threw a Yellow Pages book. I'm going to say, figure out a street in your area and start calling these people. And I sat there and I just plugged away and I would make my calls and I made that sacrifice. People don't see that aspect on it, but I did, and I grinded. But I remember I came from one sector. I came from the catering sector. I was driving coffee trucks at the time. And I was like, man, I need people. I need to remove that stigma of Nick, the coffee truck driver, to now Nick, the realtor. And it takes years to develop and consistency.
Absolutely.
So I made sure that, okay, what do I got to do? I found the local magazine that was going to get distributed throughout the area, and I put a 3/4 ad. Now it's a full page ad, but it was a 3/4 page ad. And then I had a couple of bus stops that I bought, and I invested without making any money within the industry yet. And I initially invested upfront cost so that people would start saying, hey, I seen your billboard, or I seen your magazine. Oh, now you're in real estate. Now it opened up that conversation. I was like, yeah, here's my business card. You know, is there any real estate needs I can help you out with, right? And that's still something with me today is like, anytime I work a room, I go somewhere, a part of me just works the room all day long, right?
Oh, I think a lot of part of our business now is advertising. We have people to facilitate. You know, I run like you with a number of listings. I obviously couldn't be at every possible listing that I got, right?
Exactly.
So now you have to have a team of people behind you, but that team has to all be thinking the exact same way.
But yes, because they got to be a byproduct. They got to represent you. They got to become. You got to almost try to mimic somebody who's going to be the next Paul Miceli.
Right.
Who's
you have to have that.
Client. You got to have that. And it's important.
Or
That's where
you're
scripting and
going to
training.
be limited on what you can do.
Yeah.
If you don't want to be limited and you want to grow your bet, you have to work with other people.
What I find different though between our sectors, right?
Yeah.
You in the commercial side and me, I really specialize in residential resale, is that we will make and I think, you know, it could be a game changer, and we've talked about this many times. Is that we're running in with virtual tours, we're doing home staging, we're promoting this product, we're marketing, we're doing
drones.
all drones. Like if I went and I go onto a commercial listing of a unit that's for sale or a building that's for sale, it's one sentence, 3,000 square feet. Or 30,000 square feet.
We're still in the Stone Ages.
You're still like it's still in the Stone Ages. There's only a picture of the building in the outside, and there's no
Nick,
pictures in the inside.
I'm so happy you brought this up.
Yeah,
I'm so happy that you brought this up.
Yeah.
Because, so, you're right and you're wrong, and I'll tell you why.
Yep.
So a lot of the norm of commercial brokers is exactly what you said. You know, they put a front shot of the building, usually nothing to do with the inside or a layout or anything like that. They put a front shot of the building or the unit or the retail space, but it's always a front shot. They put a little blurb, you know, a few lines long, and then it's like, call me, right? That's pretty well it is.
Yeah.
So back a few years ago, my partner in crime, Marcello Scorza, which is our broker of record, and he's partners with me in the brokerage, he came up with an idea. So we started to do some office space at the time. And office space is very particular, right? Because, you know, you have different decor, you have you have layouts, you have all these different things. So we actually started to do photography at the time. Wasn't a full virtual tour, but we started to do some photography.
Yeah.
And it started to work. Now, lately, I think you've been seeing some of our literature. We've been kind of seeing a little more of each other.
Correct.
Did you see how far we've come with that?
Yeah.
We're doing the drone shots. We're doing the virtual tours in certain buildings. I think
it's important.
Yeah, because this all comes back to that technology thing. Let's get with the times. There's no point in driving to a property if it's not going to work for him. So the more information you give him ahead of time, the more he can realize, yeah, this property could work for my business or it can't. And why would you want to waste your time and, more importantly, the client's time if it isn't going to work?
Yeah.
Before it was like, I think that was a ploy by commercial agents.
Just to capture the call.
But it's like, that's old. It's passe.
Yeah.
It really is.
There's enough business to go
we
around
don't run ours like that. If you look at our listings, I have a lot of pictures. We have a big detailed. And the first thing I say to you is please contact us for our package, because MLS is limited on what you can post.
Right.
So what we do is you guys are great with the virtual tour type. So what we do is you call us.
There's a lot more involved. There could be environmentals.
Yeah, right.
That
we
could be done on the property. You can send those.
We're actually setting up data rooms now.
Yeah.
So you call us, you sign, usually you sign a CA, which is a confidentiality agreement.
Yeah.
Because a lot of our stuff is confidential, where you don't want it getting into the wrong hands of the wrong people.
Yeah.
In other words, other landlords or somebody that could hurt your client, right? So we get confidentiality agreements signed, and then we build data rooms. And inside of those data rooms, you have, you know, your pictures, your environmentals, your leases, everything is there. So this guy actually knows a lot about the building before he's even been there.
Yeah.
And then if he's likes it, guess then we're into part two, which is show him the building, right?
Yeah. And I think it's gonna save so much more time. You know, if I'm looking for space, right, and I want to open up another Remax office, and I'm looking for something 5,000 square feet, but I only see a picture in front of the building. It's like, oh my God, now these guys are going to I'm a real estate agent, right? And it's like,
absolutely.
You're never going to get me as a client.
No.
So why not just give me the photos so I can make a decision based on, do I want to move forward in seeing it? So when I call to book an appointment on that property, we're not wasting your time, not wasting my time, right? Just give me the information. Let me see it.
Absolutely.
So we all can move on from it. I remember back in the day, sorry, Paul, I don't want to cut you off on a point that I know you want to make, but it's just like, it's like when I used to put on the magazines, there was agents that wouldn't even put the price on that particular ad. And I'm like, why are you not putting the price on that particular ad? Or you see on the MLS, there's no square footage actually listed. This is important information. And they're like, well, we want to take it in. They're called loss leaders, right? They want to take them in as a loss leader to say, hey, you don't want to give them all that information up front so you can generate that call, right? But there's other ways around it if you really want to get,
Me personally, I am a guy that give all the information.
But how good does that make you look for somebody else who's looking to sell their building,
right,
or looking to sell their office space? How about that business say, "Oh man, these guys are different."
No, I'm not into
right?
I don't want to waste their time, and I don't want to waste mine.
Yeah,
I want to give them all the straight goods up front. I'm a big believer on being a straight shooter. That to me kind of looks like you're a little bit on the sly, or you're just trying to get clients that way. If you want to get clients, there's a way to get clients. That's not the way to get clients, in my opinion. I think the way to get clients is to go out and actually make the calls and win that client over, right? The right way.
Yeah.
By kind of trying to trick them into calling you, I don't think is the right way to do it.
I agree. And I think, even a one sentence description of that unit or that building is not enough, right? No. It's like I put myself in a perspective, the boots of somebody selling my place. If I'm an owner of a property, right, I want to make sure that you're treating it with the utmost respect, right? And I think, and really it deserves that. So, if I'm the owner, I'm like, well, if you're putting a sentence and I have a unit that's 5,000 square feet, give me a call for more information. I'm like, man, that's vague. How about, hey, I spent $150,000 in renovations inside there.
Right.
This thing comes connected with, full Wi-Fi features, and, all the furniture is going to be included, and we have all LED lighting throughout the entire building. I got 18-foot clear height. Put a little description, make a little bit of an effort on it. And I think that's a little part of your sector that is missing.
They're weak. They're weak. They're absolutely weak. I think through the pandemic, we didn't have as many choices. You couldn't get in front of people as easily. So we got a little bit further in the last 2 years than we were, let's say, the last 10 years. I think you're going to see that trend, though. I think, we have younger guys coming up, more technical guys, more in tune with the new technologies and the new things available. So I think you're going to see that our sector get much better quicker.
Yes.
I think that's we are definitely,
because you're all fighting for the same client, right? You're all fighting for the same deal.
As Vanguard Realty, we're definitely going to go be a front runner in this aspect for sure, because we are pushing it. We're pushing it with our guys, but it's like, it's education. Education takes time. You're changing everybody's mindset. So I think you're going to see within a year or 18 months, you're going to see like leaps and bounds in what you're describing. I think
I've seen a huge difference, especially coming from your company, the way you guys set it up. I call it mine is like called the vault, where you're going to have a vault to people to get access to that information once they sign that CA with you. Right, and you can get that, but that's really good, and I think it could be such improved within your sector that, the first person to come to market with it, I think would really stand out and make the difference on it. So I think that's some good information. We're gonna talk. I just want to talk a little bit of the market, Paul. Residential side of things. I can see Remax just came out with a report stating that we are looking to get probably another 3.3% dip in the market. For next year, they're predicting that the market will turn into more of a balanced market or a buyer's market, which means that means inventory needs to start shooting up. Interest rates will continue to maintain at a high rate. Unaffordability for homes are still going to be part of the nature for the next 12 months. Do you see the same thing in the commercial industrial space?
I have seen some changing. So there's two sectors. Let's talk first about the sales side, and then we'll get into the leasing side.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, so the sales side, obviously, interest rates go up, prices need to adjust. They can't, you can't keep prices high when it costs more money to borrow money.
Right.
So it makes sense. So like if we're dealing with what we call the landlord market, they're buying on cap rates. So if you're borrowing money at X and now X has cost you more money, then the price of that property needs to come down. So we're not seeing a big dip. Our markets are a little different than the residential markets. Number one, we never did big loan to value ratios as we did in the residential sector. Right. So typically people that bought commercial real estate, usually had between 40 and 50% down on their properties. So you're not going to see as much as a fluctuation as you are in the residential side. So we're seeing adjustments minorly. I think a big adjustment in our business might be 10 to 15% on the sale side. Mm-hmm. I don't think you're going to see much more than that.
And I just want to make this point while you're on this topic, is that I think the difference is in the end user. There's a lot of end users that are still looking within your sector. And those end users, they don't matter because they've always paid a little bit more money.
Yeah, you need it.
Exactly. An investor is going to look at the numbers. He's going to look at his ROI. He's going to look at
So it's
I want to make sure I'm making
for a
7,
while
8%.
though. For a while, investors were kind of right out of the market in our business just because the prices had shot up so fast and so high. So right now, we actually are seeing some investment coming back, and of course, we're also seeing the user market. Now, the user market tends to pay that. So if the investor market adjusted by 10 or 15%, the user market might pay that 10 or 15% more.
Yeah.
So, it's twofold, but on the other side, it's harder for that user to get money than it was a year ago.
Yeah.
So, because, based on commercial mortgages, it's usually based on cash flow and then, your financial statements. So if their businesses haven't done as well, they're not going to be able to get money that easy.
Right.
So it's twofold. So I predict that you're going to see some investors back coming into the market in the next 12 to 18 months. I think that you're going to see interest rates continue to rise in the beginning of 23, but I think they're going to just settle down. They're going to stay there for a period of time.
Yeah.
I've gone to a couple of cocktail parties where some what do you call them? They're almost like handicappers, but guys that predict the market, and
the economists,
and they're more even there, but they work for the banks. And these guys have basically said, look, the market's gone up. We had very, very low interest. So now it's it's really come up to where we were, a few years ago.
Well, pre-pandemic.
Pre-pandemic. So it's good. They believe that the market will stay there till 2023. And then they believe that in 24, the market will start to, the interest rate will start to change a little bit. And that'll peak, that'll make the market speed up again. So that's what we think is going to happen. I don't know, on the leasing side of things that that's more the sales side. The leasing side of things, we just don't have enough space in our sector, especially industrial spaces. So whatever space, we're 0.05% in the GTA market.
That's basically nothing.
There's nothing. Yeah, you can't. So when I started in this business, right, Nick, we worked with 10%. So
wow.
So a guy, it's a big difference.
Big difference.
And sometimes 15, like some years, especially that 09 era where we had the banking crisis in the U.S. that trickled into our commercial markets. Mm-hmm. And some of our big institutional landlords got in big trouble in the Ontario market.
Right.
So I kind of did a lot of work at that time. And the big difference was you had a guy that had 5,000 square feet of industrial. He wanted to move to 10,000. It was available. Right now, the big problem that we're finding as brokers, we can't move them. So, in other words, for a guy to grow, you need to get rid of that space and get him into larger space. That isn't easy. So, I'm going to predict this, and this is a very different thing. You're going to see, as interest rates are rising, you're going to see rents rising, which hasn't really...
I'm hearing on the industrial space, it's like $20 a foot net.
Right. So,
which is pretty high for those.
I just personally listed 9,000 feet the other day in the Pine Valley Business Park on Trowers Road, and we listed it at $19.95. I think we had.
How big's the building?
It's a half of a freestanding building, and I think that we had 4 showings in one day. So there's obviously people looking, right?
Yeah.
To have that kind of turnaround on it. So I predict we'll probably have an offer in the next 2 weeks on it, right?
Yeah. I don't see you're not going to find anything else.
No,
You're probably getting to multiples, and that thing will hit $21, $22 a foot. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah, you don't know, right?
I have a friend of mine. I was just having a conversation with. We went out for lunch, and he was telling me the same thing. And he's looking for a building. He's in the warehousing space.
Yeah.
And he's looking for a building 200,000 square feet to lease. Like 100,000 square feet is small for him.
Yeah.
And he's at $20 a foot.
Yeah.
And we're talking 200,000 square feet.
Yeah.
And you still can't find it, right? So it's like the landlord, the way they're looking at it, these big REIT companies or these big landlords.
The warehousers, they're going for big clear heights. So
they know that they're going to.
It's actually cubic feet almost now, right?
Yes.
So that business is changing a little bit too. That's why to make the rents work, what you're seeing in that sector, what you just brought up, that's why you're seeing guys build 42 clear, 50 clear. That's why.
Because now they're selling on the height.
Yeah, because they got to rack pallets all the way to the rafters, right? That's why.
It's very interesting just to really kind of take a different setting. When we talk about end users and investors and, the difference of the markets on it, because we get the same thing on residential side of things, right? If I'm looking to represent a builder who wants to build a couple of custom homes, and there's a lot that comes up for sale in a certain area that he wants to start, building his reputation in that community. I look at him and say, hey, listen, you got to really, if you're going to put an offer on this unit, you better pick it up a little bit, because there's an end user who's going to want to pay a little bit more for it, and he's going to buy that product at a little bit of a higher return. So I think the language is still there, and there's a lot of similarities when it comes to both sectors, one on the resale end and industrial side of things. I just think that we're dealing with different clientele on the residential side, right? And I think
I think it's the big part is there's more leverage, right, on that side. The residential side has more leverage.
Yeah.
But the biggest message, and I wanted to bring out this message today, and I'm glad we're having this talk. Everybody's got to just calm down. Toronto is a metropolis of a market.
It's a safe haven.
It's a safe haven.
Yeah.
There's, our government's letting in 450,000 people a year now.
Yeah, I think it's close to that number. Yeah.
Like the Toronto market, we are Canada as far as I'm concerned. Like we are the big picture. We are the big picture in Canada. The GTA market isn't going anywhere. It's only going to get stronger. People need just to relax. This is a short-term thing. It's not the end of the world. They're going to curve inflation a little bit. They're going to work with some things. And I think that within a year, we're going to be like off to the races. Like, I think it's going to be better than it ever was, a place like Toronto.
I was having a conversation with a client yesterday, and he calls me up and he says, hey, Nick, we were talking about something else. And I told him, he goes, I want to invest into something for 2023. He goes, I just want to save up for a little bit more of my 20% down payment to rent out a property. I'm like, oh, that's great. I said, but why wait to save up and buy in 2023? Let's get into the market now. And I'm saying, get into the Toronto market, get something pre-construction, get even a condo that's going to close in 4 years from now, right? That the market's going to recover. It's not going to matter anymore, right? Yes. So you just leave your money there. And I like pre-construction for that sector.
This is the other thing too. We're not selling stocks. You're not buying shares in Apple. You're not buying IBM. What you're buying here, real estate is a slow-moving product. You got to measure real estate successes over a 10-year period. It's not, I know the last few years people have made, especially in your sector, Nick, people have made 30% on a jump. That's not
1 month.
That's not how real estate should be measured.
No.
You have to measure it over time. And that time
5 years, 10 years.
Right. And then you're going to see, like, if you go back, and I'm willing to bet anybody this, what you could have bought a house for 10 years ago, even on the market going down, you still can't buy that property for that price.
Correct. You still made a lot of money.
And you made big money on it.
The ones that got hurt right now are the ones that bought in February or January.
But they only got hurt if they sold it. If they keep it, they didn't get hurt.
Yeah. You only lose when you sell.
That's it. Yeah. So if you can hold it, and you're not leveraged and you're not in trouble, keep it.
My advice to a lot of people, especially those that have small kids that we're going to look at real estate in Toronto in 20 years from now, that you'll if you buy a property today and we look at 20 years from now in real estate, that property would probably be worth 100% more than what it actually is today.
Absolutely.
And we're talking 20 years from now.
Right.
In 10 years, it should be an average of 50%.
Yeah.
You know, and in 5 years should be 25% higher, right? If you get your 3, 4, 5% increases per year, which is normal, which is a very healthy normal market. You know, give me sustainable. Give me 5% increases per year, not 26 jumps, right? So think about it: 5% per year in the next 20 years. You're talking that product will be 100% more than what it is today. If you're not making investments for your kids now, and you're not getting into the market for them now, they will not be able to live around you. You're going to have to move outside the Golden Horseshoe. You're going to have to move outside. They're going to have to move outside into the suburbs, or they're going to be living in a condo, which is going to be about 500 square feet big, right? So you have to plan for that, right?
Absolutely.
And it's important.
You know, me personally, I'm already making investments on my kids' behalf.
You have to, yes.
Right. And I'm trying to get them into the market. And then they can use those smaller properties as stepping stones and to get into something better or larger when they need it.
Yeah.
Right. But if you don't get in, you're never in. And then it's always going to cost you more money to get in.
I got a few more questions for you, Paul. I think we're getting into this, but you know, I'm having so much fun here because I think you're giving us so much information for all our listeners that I want to keep you on as long as I can. I just want to kind of, you know, tap into why you specialized in industrial commercial. What moved you to that sector over residential resale, right? Because, you know, I went the other way. I went residential resale.
In one word,
you
Nick,
moved industrial commercial.
That's a real simple answer. My clientele. So like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, you asked what we did as a family business before I got into real estate. So we dealt with institutional clients and construction companies and that sort of things and landlords in the rental equipment business. So because of that business, I already had a lot of contacts. So me personally, that's why that was the number one reason for me moving. And it was, you know, that path of least resistance that we spoke about before. It was just easier for me to make that transition. I already had some relationships with these guys that were they were already landlords. I wasn't working with them on the landlord side. It was in the equipment side at the time, but I already knew that they owned commercial properties and industrial properties. So that's pretty well the reason I went that way.
Do you still love the business?
I do. You know, I wake up, you know, the way I can explain this business, I wake up like I'm playing pro hockey every day. For me, there's nothing else I'd rather do. I still have a lot of fun. You know, I think it's the best business in the world. For me, it was the best thing that I ever did. I'm happy that I transitioned into real estate from what I was doing before. You know, until I retire, there's nothing else I'm going to be doing. This is what it is. I love what I do, and I wouldn't change it for the world.
Yeah, I'm on the same. I think it's the best business in the world. I love it because I'm allowed to set my own schedule. I work for myself. When I feel like taking a day off, I'll take a day off. When I want to go to the gym, I'll go to the gym. If I want to go for lunch, I'll go for lunch. And it allows you that opportunity. It could be lucrative if you when you're there, I believe, you know, and you're in that space, put in the time.
You need to be disciplined.
You know, you got to be disciplined to it, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like I'm up early in the morning every day, making sure I take care of my health, right? And then I got my kids, but I don't get to the office till 10 o'clock. But sometimes I'm later on within the evenings, right? You're networking, you're you know, our money's made when we're in front of our clients, right?
Well, there's a good difference too between commercial and residential agents. So typically my day starts very early and it ends earlier. So Nick's might start a little later, but I guarantee you it ends later.
It does.
Right? So at the end of the day, you're still putting in that time.
Yeah.
You need to put in time.
Yes. You're not doing open houses on the weekend either.
No. Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But we may be, you know, on the weekend, we may be playing golf with a client. Or we may, you know, like it's just, you know, there's different, I think, you know, I'm a 24/7 real estate guy. Like that's how I look at myself. I don't shut it off and I don't turn it on.
If somebody's calling you on a Sunday, you're answering the call.
Yeah. The real estate is a career. It's not a job. You know, you're not punching in a time card or you're not showing up where you have set business hours. This is something that, you know, like I said, I live it 24/7. And hey, some, you know, for instance, in our type of industry, like I'm not getting a lot of calls during the Christmas holidays. So I have some time with my family.
As much of your clients are away,
right.
they're gone.
They're
right?
gone, and we're probably not busy till the second, third.
And they're hosting their Christmas parties.
Right.
And they're structuring their 2023 campaigns.
The next month for me is all cocktail parties, Christmas parties. They're all basically just relationship builders that we have to show up to and be in person in and be part of, because we have those relationships with our clients, right?
Yes.
But you're not really doing business.
No, you're just building on that relationship.
For next year.
Correct. So the question I would ask for you is, what are your goals for 2023? What do you think that you would now, because to get to your level, I'm sure every single year you're going to set goals in mind that you want to try to attain. And there's goals that I want to attain in my business plans every single year. Like for me, adding a podcast for 2023 was a really part of my growth aspect. What are your plans for next year?
Our plans are, I think, the market is a little sensitive. I don't think, my plan is, I don't think we're going to make hit home runs and build records next year.
But I think that guys like you will survive more than the average agent. That's not.
What I think, you're going to have to work a little harder.
Yeah.
You're going to have to make some more calls. You're going to have to get in front of people a little more. You're going to have to go back to the basics.
Yes.
And the guys that are able to make that transition,
yes,
they're still going to have you're going to find out that year isn't very much different than the year before. Just because but you're going to have to do a little bit more work.
Right.
That's my advice. My goals are simple. I'm going to spend more. I like these kind of things. I think I'm going to spend a lot of time actually educating my younger people coming up.
Yes.
Because I will have that time, and I want to make them better brokers for our clients, for our business, for themselves.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So that's one of my personal goals. I'm
awesome.
going to spend some time with them, and get in front. I'm going to go back to the basics. I'm going to actually, because now the pandemic's kind of gone and done, I'm going to actually get in my car some days and show up at some guys' offices, which I haven't done in the last.
Because you didn't need to.
Yeah,
you didn't need to.
But I'm going to do that now.
Yes, I believe that we're going to see. There's going to be, there's going to be a lot of realtors that enter the business, leave the business, and I just think because it's going to take, if you don't have build a brand or you've built a brand yet, and you're on your own, it's going to be tough because people are not going to want to give their biggest investment that they make, and I'm talking about residential, to somebody who's in training or somebody who's just learning the business. They're going to get somebody who's experienced, who's got a name out there. They got for sale signs, they got sold signs out there, and they have that that credibility behind them. And I think that's what you're going to see within industry. And the ones we're going to have to go back to, before it was easy. Phones were just ringing off the hook because if you had a good deal, people were just calling you. Now it's, hey, let's reverse it. Now we got to go find our clients again. And how do we find people that are looking to buy and sell?
I think that strong agents, like you said before, Nick, are definitely going to survive, and they're actually going to flourish to the top. But what I think as a broker now, what we're actually really doing, we're actually doing a really strong service for our clients again. I think that we weren't, like, not that we weren't doing the job. The job was much easier.
We were selling a house in a week with 10 offers in,
and no sign.
And no sign.
No sign.
Yeah, it was. You get the listing. It was pretty much money.
Now you're going to work it. Now we're going to see
the marketing campaigns.
Not to be sexist, because I'm not, but we're going to separate the men from the boys, and this is what's going to happen.
Yes.
The next little while, you're going to see strong agents really flourish, and weak ones will disappear, and they'll disappear quickly.
I agree. Yes. One more question for you, Paul.
Sure.
Somebody who's starting out in this industry, what advice would you give? What's the most important, crucial advice that you wish you had when you started out in the business that you would give to somebody who's inspiring to become a Paul Miceli?
The most crucial thing, and there's a definitely, it's not an easy answer, and it's not an easy thing to do, but I'm a big believer in relationship building. So if you're going to make it in this business and you're going to last in this business, don't be a one-hit wonder. Build relationships. And relationships cost you time and money.
Yes.
And you got to be able to put that investment into your people, into your clients. If you're not willing to do that, I don't think this is the right business for you.
And that'll create longevity, right? So, Paul, if somebody's listening and they wanted to get into become a real estate agent in the commercial sector, or somebody wanted to reach out to you, what's the best way to get in contact with you?
call me up.
Call you
It's
up.
very easy. I'm very easy to get a hold of.
Do you have a website?
Yeah, we have our Vanguard website, which is very easy. We're on social media. We're on LinkedIn. We're on. We have a Facebook page. It's all through Vanguard Realty.
Nice.
And but if call any of my offices, it's very simple to get a hold of me. I always.
So you're looking to hire new agents all the time, right? If
always.
They want to, you have mentorship programs that you offer.
We have some training programs. We have we in our particular sector, we love to get guys. It's not so much what they know, is that the ability that they want to learn, and they want to learn how to do it.
Right.
And then we don't mind putting the time in.
Yeah.
It's you got, but and the big part of our program that we do teach is relationship building. That's because of what we do. It's a guy might sell his personal property, right, Nick, 2 or 3 or 4 times in his life. The stuff that we're doing is repetitively, constantly, right? Because businesses, you grow with them. Landlords, they continuously buy, continuously lease. There's a lot of different things you need to do for them. So you got to have relationships. And you got to nurture those relationships. So you may have a lot more clients than we would.
Yes.
It's that old.
It's a numbers game, though, right?
Yeah,
there's a lot more houses for sale within the market than there are industrial commercial buildings.
And I'm a big believer. I don't know if you know what the 80-20 rule, I call it.
Yeah.
So I spent 80% of my time on my top 20 clients.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer. In our sector, you need to do that.
Right.
That's what I think works.
Yeah. Paul, listen, there's so much more that me and you can dive into.
We can talk forever.
We can talk forever. I definitely want to have you back on the show if you give us that opportunity to do so.
Anytime. I'd love to do it.
This has been great. You provided so much information to it. And thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Nick. Anytime.
Looking to buy or sell? Call a team you can trust. Don't believe me? Our Google reviews say it all. Put us on your lawn, your house will be gone. TheOPteam.com.